And good evening, Pittsburgh Steelers fans. Welcome to another episode of Steelers Friday Night Six Pack. I'm your host, as always, Tony Defio, and I thank you for joining me on this nice and lovely, mild Friday night on July 30th, 2021. And if you're joining me on YouTube, I ask you to please subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Behind the Steel Curtain YouTube channel, where we bring you this show and countless other live shows each and every week. And you can also find all those live shows on Facebook. And if you can't, for whatever reason, because of work or whatever, you can't catch those shows live, you can catch them on any audio platform, including Stitcher, iHeartRadio, iTunes, you name it. We have so many great live shows. We have the Hangover every Monday after every Steeler game. It's year round, but soon it'll be a real hangover because it'll occur after every Steeler game. So that'll be pretty cool to check out. We have the preview with Brian Anthony Davis, Jeff Hartman, and Dave Schofield. That's every Thursday. We have Know Your Enemy with Jeffrey Benedict and Michael Beck. Touchdown Under, the Scobro Show. So many shows. So please check those out. And, of course, check out our audio-only shows. We have the Steelers Retro Show, the Stat Geek, Let's Ride with Jeff Hartman, the Live Mic with Michael Beck, the War Room with Matty Peverall. Jeffrey Benedict's coming out with his own audio show. And as always, you can, as I said, with the live shows, you can check those out on any audio platform of your choosing. Wherever you can find podcasts, you can find any of our podcasts. You can find the Behind the Steel Curtain podcasting channel. So we have a lot of shows, a lot of personalities. We have new personalities coming in the fall. You're really gonna enjoy it. And of course, please check out Behind the Steel Curtain, the website. We bring you news, commentary, film breakdown, post game stuff, pre-game stuff. We have to start getting into that stuff because the Steelers are about to play their first preseason game next week in the Hall of Fame game against the Cowboys. Training camp news, everything. As we like to say, it's your one-stop shop for all your Steelers needs. So please check that out. And I'm going to give a shout-out to everybody in the live chat. We have Carol. I'll just say Carol. I can't. I'm not even going to try to say the last name. Carol, Steeler Chick 46, who was the first one here, by the way. First one, George Teston, Brian Brown, Sean Manahan, Steelers Pittsburgh, Creix, Danny Owens, Jared Devil. So it's great to be David. He says, Mr. Defio, how are you? It's very respectful, even though I don't deserve that kind of respect, but I'll take it. So thank you for everyone for joining me in the live chat and joining me wherever you're joining me, whether it's live or on an audio platform later on. I'm really touched that you're with me. And why wouldn't I be excited and touched and everything? We're just about to wrap up the very first week of Steelers padded practices at Latrobe. As I'm doing this show, they just finished up a kind of like a Friday night lights practice at Heinz Field. It was at 5 o'clock, so it was kind of like just a Friday evening practice, but still, it's pretty cool to see the Steelers in the evening hours. It kind of reminds you of last year with the Ravens and Washington game at Heinz Field. Brings back some bad memories, I know. But it was pretty cool to see the Steelers and the fans out there to support them. Mike Tomlin addressed the fans before the practice. It was really cool to see and kind of get you pumped up for the start of the year. As you know, Vodka Drinker asked any injury news. No, I didn't hear of any injury news. Nothing substantial. Believe me, if there was big time news in that department, you would hear about it. I know some guys haven't participated as much as others, but it's so early. It's so early in training camp, and when it comes to some of these guys, who knows what that reason is? A guy like Zach Banner, he's just coming back from a torn ACL, so they're going to want to ease him in. Somebody like TJ Watt, who hasn't been practicing as much as other people. I mean, he's TJ Watt. He's arguably the one of the top 2 or 3 defensive players in the NFL. I mean, you know what he can do. If you're the Steelers, maybe you want to get more work in with Quincy Roche, the rookie. Obviously, Alex Highsmith is in his second year. He's going to be getting all the reps he can get to see if he can do the job in place of Bud Dupree. Melvin Ingram, he's a veteran, but you want to get him acclimated into the system and get him acclimated and getting him learning Keith Butler's game playbook. So, but as far as major injuries, I haven't heard anything. I know Ben, he has like a Veterans Day off every few days or so. He has like a rotation, which, I don't know if people have a problem with that or not, but I mean, he's 39. It seems pretty standard for a quarterback of that age to kind of be rotated in every few days and get a Veterans Day off once or twice a week. So I have no problem with any of that stuff. But the word out of training camp, the first week of padded practices, as it usually is, mostly pretty positive. I'm really liking what I'm hearing from about Pat Freiermuth, the second-round pick from Penn State, the tight end. He seems like, I mean, it's early. I mean, you can't really. It's all, you have to take it all with a grain of salt at this time of training camp. But everything about him so far seems pretty positive. I mean, his ability to make catches, of course, to catch the ball. That's I think nobody's surprised by that. But I mean, you're hearing things about blocking. So I think. I kind of thought that he might be somebody who could eventually be a number 1 tight end and not be the inline blocking tight end that people think he's going to be in the mold of a Heath Miller, even though Heath Miller was stats-wise the greatest tight end in franchise history. Testing. Apparently, I got an alert saying my mic went down, but you guys would certainly remind me of that if that was true. And I haven't seen anything in the live chat. So if I did go down for a few seconds, I apologize. But testing. How about now? You guys will let me know. I'll keep going. If there's a problem, I'll try to fix it. But it looks like I'm good right now. I'm back now, says Steeler Chick 46. That's why she's the first one in the bullpen. And where was I? Pat Freiermuth. I think he has a chance to be a really stud tight end in the same vein as a George Kittle. God, I have to remember these names again as we head towards the regular season. Of course, Travis Kelce, or does he want to be called Kels? I don't know. I've never been a big fan of him, so maybe I'll call him by his wrong last name just to make him angry. Not that he knows who I am. But yeah, I think Freiermuth has a chance to be somebody like that someday. But that's just obviously early projections by me. And for all we know, he might flame out. You just don't know. But I'm really excited to see what he can do on Thursday against the Cowboys. As far as somebody like Najee Harris, like I kind of alluded to last week, I don't think he's going to play. Honestly, I don't think Harris is going to play in that first game. I think they know. And Brian and Shannon and I talked about this on Monday on The Hangover. I think they're confident in him, not as far as being a starting running back per se, a legit can't miss starting running back, but I think they're confident in him as far as being the best running back that they have on the roster. So I think they're going to protect him as much as possible. And I don't expect him to play in the first game against the Cowboys. And if he does, he's not going to play much, because I think you want to protect a guy like that. Kind of like what they did with Le'Veon Bell in his rookie year. If you remember his very first game, I think it was at Heinz Field, if I'm not mistaken. Either way, his very first preseason game, he was held out with a bruised knee. Now, if he was a 5th-round pick or a 6th-round pick, he probably would have played. But being that he was a 2nd-round pick, and I think he was kind of handpicked by Tomlin. I think Tomlin sort of kept him in bubble wrap that preseason and even early in the year. He had a foot sprain, a midfoot sprain, and he missed the first few weeks. But I think they knew what they had in Le'Veon Bell as far as being the best running back that they had on the roster, and they had big plans for him. And of course, he met those expectations and then surpassed them. So, as far as the what they believe they have in Harris as far as the best running back, I think that's similar to what how they felt about Bell in 2013. And I think they're going to protect him early on. And as far as him meeting those expectations and being the kind of player that Bell was, we can only hope. We can only hope. But I don't expect much from Harris. But I'm obviously looking forward to seeing what Kendrick Green does, the third-round pick from Illinois, the center. I really want him to, and we've talked about this many times this summer, since the draft, actually. I really want him to blow away BJ Finney and JC Hassenauer and just seize the opportunity and just become the starting center well before the end of preseason. I really hope that happens because I think he has a chance to step in there and, similar to Pouncey in his rookie year, be the best lineman on the team. Although he'll certainly have competition in Kevin Dotson, who had one heck of a rookie year, but he'll be moving from right guard to left guard. So, right guard to left guard. So we'll see. So those are the 3 draft picks I'm really looking forward to seeing. Actually, no, Quincy Roche. I really want to see what he has to offer on Thursday because he was so productive in college. He had 30 and a half sacks in 4 years, 26 and a half with the Temple Owls. He was a decorated player, first team all conference with Temple. I think he was on the third team at Miami. Just so productive, and like some of the advanced stats that were compiled about him last year, as far as pressures, he was either the leader or one of the leaders in quarterback pressures over the last couple of years in college. So he's really an intriguing prospect, and it kind of makes you wonder, a guy who was that productive and seemed to be such a natural and talented pass rusher, why did he last to the 6th round? I'm sure there's reasons that people can cite, but he's here now, and I just want to see what he can do because if he becomes a player, if he shows a lot in the preseason, then there's a spot for him. Maybe not this year as far as being the top backup at outside linebacker, but certainly by 2022, you're not going to have to worry about depth anymore behind TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Quincy Roche can do. And of course, Shakur Brown, Lamont Wade, you name it, those undrafted free agents. Everybody's excited about Brown. A guy who, for the grades that he got from Pro Football Focus, and I know we like to pick and choose with those grades depending on how they fit our narratives, or our agendas. But obviously, he was projected to go a lot higher than he was drafted, which he wasn't drafted at all. He was undrafted out of Michigan State. So he might be somebody who's a tremendous find. So as far as rookies, I mean, those are the and of course Presley Harvin, the punter. I want to see him because, I mean, a layman like me who doesn't really know a whole heck of a lot about X's and O's and schemes and tendencies and blah, 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 I could certainly I know when a punter can punt the ball far or not, or when he had a shank. So I'm looking forward to see what he can do on Thursday under the bright lights of Canton, Ohio. I think a lot of Steeler fans are automatically assuming he's going to take that punting job from Jordan Berry, but you never know. You never know. Was it a few years ago they drafted, what was his name, Hopa? I forget his name already. The long snapper. They drafted him in the 6th round. And people were like, oh my gosh, why would they do that? And a lot of people figured that he would be a sure thing to make the roster, and they cut him. So you never know. But that's another rookie I'm looking forward to seeing. So that's my first topic. And Russ Obenstein says, hi, what's up, Tiny and Steelers family? I'm sure that was a typo, but I am trying to lose some weight, as always. I'm about 183 or so as of last week. So I'm going to get down below 180 by the start of the football season. That's my goal. It's my goal, and I want you guys to hold me to it. Next time I write an article that you don't agree with, just call me Tubby or something. I don't know, whatever. So here's one from Brian Brown regarding the punting situation, and he says, we are all interested in seeing how Jeff reacts. That's Jeff Hartman, the behind-the-curtain senior editor, who's not a big fan of Jordan Berry, but he has a lot of company in that regard. And, you know, I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what Hartman can do and seeing if he can become first of all, his replacement, and second of all, a stud of a punter. We already know he's a stud of a specimen. He's like, 260? He can bench press a car. So not bench press, but squat a car, whatever. So it's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds. That's going to be a fun battle, I think, throughout training camp and the preseason as punter. And the stakes are certainly higher this year for Jordan Berry than they've been in the past, because it hadn't been since 2007 that they drafted a punter at all. So obviously they're pretty serious about trying to improve that position. So Jordan Berry's been put on notice. So it'll be interesting to see how he reacts too. So. And here's another one. Jeff Hartman's the star of this show tonight. Sean Manahan says Jeff should go on live for first time a punt comes so we get his real reaction. Well, it all depends. Is it going to be Jordan Berry or Presley Harvin? If it's Jordan Berry, we know how Jeff's going to react. He can boot it 70 yards. He'll be like, it was a fluke. Whereas Harvin, that's the real reaction you want to get. Because if Harvin, if he boots 170 yards, and Jeff's going to be, he'll probably follow for adoption to adopt Harvin. So, yeah, it's gonna be fun to see how that transpires there. So, and what else am I looking forward to? Well, I'm looking forward to. I didn't even think I was looking forward to this until I started hearing reports early in camp. Probably even before they started donning pads in practice and in hitting. And that's Antoine Brooks. I mean, I was never really considered him as a major candidate to take that slot corner position, but he was doing pretty good early on, and I really haven't heard a whole lot from him since, or about him since. But that's an intriguing guy, because he was a 6th-round pick last year out of Maryland, and he didn't do a whole heck of a lot. But a lot of people were excited about his potential heading into the season, and a lot of 6th-round picks, you hear that about, like we're talking about Quincy Roche this year. Those late-round picks, you're really excited about their potential, and then they kind of disappear. They kind of get, I hate to say exposed, but they do kind of get exposed in training camp in the preseason, and then they kind of go away, and oftentimes you never hear from them again. But Brooks is back, and he made some noise early on, so he's somebody that I'm really looking forward to watching against the Cowboys to see what he can do. So see if he can. There's a chance for him to, and it doesn't have to be necessarily slot corner. I mean, he can play safety. People are worried about the depth at that position. I mean, if he really has a great camp and a great preseason, I mean, that might put a lot of people, allow a lot of people to relax as far as the depth at safety. So there's a great opportunity for a player like Brooks. He's somebody that really hasn't been talked about a whole heck of a lot, but he's somebody that can he spent a year in Keith Butler's system. He spent a year as a professional football player. So, things should be a little easier for him this year as far as his being able to use his instincts instead of thinking all the time, which is what young football players often fall prey to. So he's another guy I'm really looking forward to watching this week. So, and at the 19:30 mark, I think it's a good time to take a break and to close out the first half of the show. If you're watching me on Facebook or YouTube live, I'm not going anywhere. I'll be back in 2 and 2 or whatever, as Chuck Woolery likes to say. But if you're listening on an audio platform, and as I've said already, you can find us on any audio platform. If you're listening after the fact, please download part 2 and I will be back shortly for part 2 of this episode of Steelers Friday Night Six Pack. And welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to part 2 of this episode of Steelers Friday Night Six Pack. I'm your host, as always, Tony Defio. And if you stayed with me for the live portion of the show on YouTube or Facebook, I thank you. If you downloaded part 2, I thank you for that. So you guys are awesome. And I just want to get to a live chat comment from BMW Benji. That's quite the name. And he says, Haskins looks like a 2. Mason does not look like a 2. You can even argue Dobbs looks better than Mason. Well, I don't know if you've been to camp yet there, Benji, but that's a lot of people are excited about Haskins. I've heard some good things coming out of camp about him. According to what I've heard, he didn't look so hot in the spring sessions, like mini camp and in the OTAs. Maybe that was understandably so, since he was new to the organization, and he, like everybody else, had to learn a new system. But he's looked a lot better at training camp from what I've heard. So, but as far as Mason Rudolph's concerned, I don't think anybody's really going to be too excited about him until he actually gives them something extraordinary to be excited about. And he really has not done that so far in his short NFL career. He's had some decent moments here and there, but he's never had that one. Even Landry Jones kind of had those kind of moments early on in his career when he filled in 2015. He had a couple of passes. Some might say Martavis Bryant really helped him out with those 2 touchdowns he threw, and that went over the Cardinals. And it was really more Martavis than it was Landry Jones, but at least he had some decent moments to really sort of hold on to. Whereas Mason Rudolph really hasn't had that yet. So I think he really has to have that kind of a game. I expect him to play a lot this preseason, like a lot. Like Landry Jones a lot this preseason. Of course, Haskins will be in there a good bit too. I'm assuming, but Mason Rudolph is the only quarterback under contract for next year. So you don't know what's going to be going on as far as the quarterback room next July and August. So I think they're going to want to give Rudolph as much of a look as they can this year, just to see what kind of progress he's made. Because, I mean, he's played in, 10 games, 12, 13 games, whatever it's been. I'm sorry, he played in 10 games his first year, a few last year. But this will be his first preseason action in 2 years. So I'm pretty sure they want to see what kind of progress this guy's made. And along with Haskins, which I think we all want to see what Haskins is made of. He's kind of like that really expensive toy that you found on Craigslist for a bargain price, and you don't know why the original owner got rid of it. And you just want to sort of try it out and see if it's still good, or if it's a lemon. I think a lot of people are really excited about watching Haskins and seeing what he can do, and seeing that first round pedigree in action. So hopefully he plays at least. I anticipate Mason Rudolph playing the entire first half on Thursday, and Haskins playing most of the second half. Honestly, that's how I think it's going to unfold. Maybe Hobbs will get in there for a little bit, but I think Hobbs, Roy Hobbs. Oh gosh, live podcasting. Dobbs. Anyway, I expect Dobbs to get in there maybe at the end of Thursday's game, but I think his more extensive action will come later in the preseason. And it looks like I have a super chat, a $5 super chat I have to find. I must have missed it here. Let's see if I can go back and find that sucker, or maybe I didn't miss it. Maybe it's just popping up. Either way, where is that sucker? There it is, and it's from Sean Manahan, and he donates $5 to the cause, and I thank you, Sean. We all thank you. It's always very helpful. And he says, this is a comment, not a question: if Haskins can stay away from Sapphire, he could be a great number 2. he does have first-round pedigree. Well, I think a lot of people would be inclined to agree with you. Even Sapphire aside, you just put the on-the-field talent in the mix and leave the Sapphire stuff out, which I know most people aren't going to do. Yeah, he does have a chance to, I think, to if he really had, like, if he's really, if he catches on early and he dazzles, I mean, you know, the Steelers aren't going to keep him as their number 3 just because Mason Rudolph is under contract next year. They're gonna make the what they think, who they think is the more talented and more capable player as their backup, because that's what's best for business in 2021. So thank you for the $5. And I just want to welcome some more people into the live chat. My friend Terry T Money. I just hung out with him on Thursday night, actually. Great place in the Strip District called Pennsylvania Market. He knows the sports. Kathy Ford, she's a legend. Clarence Washington, same. So it's I mentioned Vodka Drinker earlier, so thank you for the new folks for joining me in the live chat. And I think I got everybody. So Russ Obenstein, Usman, Ashik, I think I got that right. Thank you for joining me. So I said a couple more things I wanted to touch on before I open things up to some questions and comments. And the first thing I wanted to talk about was the I think it went away pretty quickly, but you never know. And that was the desire. I think it was Wednesday. It's when it really started to heat up, because he took to Instagram to ask for a trade on Tuesday, and that's the desire for the Steelers to go out and acquire Xavier Howard, the cornerback from the Dolphins. You know, he kind of was similar to Minkah Fitzpatrick, who also played for the Dolphins, but Minkah wasn't as vocal about it, at least not on social media. And he took to his Instagram page and he asked for a trade. He's unsatisfied with the money the Dolphins are paying him, even though he signed a pretty big deal 2 years ago for 5 years, $75 million. So when fans saw that, they immediately started asking, should they go out and get him? And my initial reaction to that, and I kind of maintain that position, is if they were going to do that, if they were going to go out and make an aggressive move and pick up a player like Howard, they would have just signed. I'm sure they would have just kept around Steven Nelson. They would have kept him around because they're both 28. And say what you want about Nelson, he might not be as good as Howard, but he's a legit starting cornerback in the NFL. I don't know where this narrative popped up. People were pretty satisfied with Nelson for 2 years, and all of a sudden the offseason comes around, he gets vocal, and now he can't play. He suddenly can't play, you know. But that's obviously, I think that's just more sour grapes or whatever you want to call it. Not sour grapes, but it's a reaction to his negative reaction to the organization and the falling out that he had with the Steelers, more than it is an indictment of his play, or indicative of Nelson's play. So if you were going to go out and get Howard, you would have just kept Nelson, because starting cornerbacks for $8 million, a really good starting cornerback for $8 million, that's a pretty good bargain in 2021. And as far as Howard, I mean, if he came here, he wouldn't just come here and just decide, I don't want a new contract. He would still want a new contract. So they have to work something out in that regard. And, they have a lot of room under the cap starting next year, but you have to pay TJ Watt. You have to pay Minkah, right? You might be interested in finding a new starting quarterback, a veteran quarterback that you're going to have to pay at least $20-25 million if you don't draft one in the first round, provided Ben doesn't come back. And if he does come back, then it's another $25-30 million or whatever you're going to have to pay, $20 million to keep him around. So, that's a lot of money to invest in one position, secondary, I should say, or one unit, I should say. $12-15 million for for Howard, whatever you're going to have to pay Minka, which probably be a similar amount per year. And then TJ Watt's going to break the bank. So yeah, it's not a feasible thing in my opinion. So it'll be interesting to see how that transpires between Howard and the Dolphins if they do decide to trade him, because I mean, they have to be feeling pretty. They have to have a complex at this point. Minka wanted out a couple of years ago, even though they were kind of planning on designing the defense around him. He wanted out. Now Howard, who has made the Pro Bowl twice, two times in the last 3 years, I think, and he led the NFL in interceptions in 2020. He wants out. So, gosh, you're trying to build a secondary if you're Miami, and you can't seem to get anybody that wants to stay around. So it's it'll be interesting to see if they can work things out, or if he does wind up getting traded. So. Brian Brown asks, and this is based on what you heard coming out of at least the early portion of training camp, and that's Ingram playing outside and inside. And he asks, will Ingram get time at inside linebacker? I'm assuming he will. I'm assuming they're going to, if they're trying it in training camp or at training camp, I'm assuming they're going to try to see what he can do in that regard in a preseason game. But I think Shannon kind of pointed out last week that on the hangover that they were moving both TJ Watt and Highsmith over and having them play sort of in the middle and not necessarily an inside linebacker. So maybe that's the kind of role they're trying Ingram at. Maybe it's not necessarily inside linebacker. Maybe he's just trying to fill a role in the middle, if that even makes any sense. I'm not an X and O's guy, but yeah, I do think if they're trying him in various positions, or at least in various positions on the field at training camp, they're certainly going to try it in the preseason game, because why not? And here's one from DJ2, and you get this a lot. Because fans know that they have like $12 million left under the cap. And he says, the question is, WTF, and you know what that stands for. Are we going to do with the money we have left? We did make all this cap space to not use it. Cut Nelson for what? Extend what? We need that much money in 2021 for that. Believe it or not, probably. I mean, it's like, well, first of all, if they would bring in somebody like Howard, that wipes out all the cap space. I don't know how they could possibly work it out, because he's contracted through 2024. So it's not like you can prorate this deal through the next 3 or 4 years. He's already contracted through the next 3 seasons. So they went out and they got the outside linebacker as far as depth. They went out and they got the right guard to replace the Castro. So, like I talked about a couple weeks ago, you have these players out there, the ones that are still free agents I'm talking about. They're still sitting out there in July. So more often than not, there's a reason. My question is, why not just trust what you already have in-house? Why not just trust Zach Banner? Why not just trust Shooks? Why not just see what you have in James Pierre? A lot of people are super talk about somebody else I wanted. I can't believe I forgot his name. James Pierre, the undrafted free agent, coming into year 2. So many people, including Shannon White, Jeffrey Benedict, they're just so excited about the guy. He appears to be a physical specimen. He's taller. He's heavier, not heavier, but bigger. He's a bigger type corner, like a cornerback, like in the mold of a Mike Taylor, like that kind of a specimen. Let's see what you have in him. Because sometimes you have to go out and you have to develop these guys that aren't premium picks, that aren't that caliber of a player. You have to go out and develop these undrafted free agents, these lower round picks. You can't always just say, well, these players that are available are better than what they have on their roster, so they have to go out and get those guys. It doesn't, it's not how it usually works in sports. Sometimes you just have to trust that you can develop your own players. And like Alex Highsmith is a great example of that. And you're hearing these reports out of camp that he's like the last one off the field every day, which does not shock me. When I read up on him, when I read his profile and listened to interviews from his college coaches and his high school coaches and his dad, and him personally, and his story from as a walk-on at Charlotte, he went from being a walk-on at a school that didn't even exist a decade ago to being an All-American, to being a pass rushing just phenom. Doesn't surprise me at all that he's such a tireless worker. So somebody like that, I mean, you just have to trust that you went out and you identified this guy as somebody who could possibly be your replacement at outside linebacker for Bud Dupree, who you were pretty sure you weren't going to be able to keep around. And if he does it, well, I mean, that's what the draft's for. That's what free agency, that's what training camp's for. That developing these younger guys. You can't just always rely on bringing in these free agents that are sitting out there. You have to be able to develop your own players. So why do they have $12 million? Why aren't they doing anything when they still have $12 million left under the cap? Maybe they have confidence in the guys that they still have on their roster, that they currently have on their roster, I should say. Maybe that's why they're not going out and addressing all these issues that are so concerning to the fans, and even those in the media are questioning, why aren't they doing this? Why aren't they doing that? Because maybe they want to find out what they have in these guys. And maybe they have confidence. Maybe they feel that they already have something in a lot of these young players. So that's why, just because they have $12 million under the cap doesn't mean they have to go out and spend it. It's not what it's always for. It's funny. People are always complaining about them being up against the cap every year. They're up against the cap. They're up against the cap. Now they have $12 million or thereabouts, and people are wanting them to spend half of that, all of that, who knows? So, all right. Well, you know what, DJ too, and you say, I got you, Tony. I'm more just venting, mad that we cut Nelson to begin with. I kind of agree with that. I don't know what led to this fallout, whether it was them wanting him to take a pay cut, or him wanting more money. But I mean, Kevin Colbert, you could choose to believe him or not. But Kevin Colbert kind of said in an interview, I guess right around the time of the draft or before the draft, we didn't think his salary was going to work for us with our salary cap situation. So it might have been just that simple. They wanted him to take a pay cut, and he said no. So they said, well, we're going to try to trade you, and if we can't find any offers for you, we'll release you. And maybe he was just saying, look, you made your decision. Remember, that's what he said on Twitter. You made your decision. Now make a move. I feel like a hostage, whatever he said that made people mad. But it was probably how it went down. The more I think about it, they probably wanted him to take a pay cut. And he said, no, I started for you 2 years in a row. I'm a pretty darn good cornerback. I'm not taking a pay cut at I'm only making $8 million. I shouldn't say only, but as far as your upper echelon cornerbacks, he was a bargain. And they maybe were asking him to take a pay cut. He's like, no, I'm not going to take a pay cut. So they probably told him, well, it doesn't work for us. We can't afford to pay you $8 million this year. So we're going to try to trade you. If not, we're going to release you. And they probably waited a little bit too long for his taste. Remember, free agency had just begun, and he was still sitting on their roster, and they hadn't made a decision on him yet. And he kind of just like forced their hand, and they had to cut him. So. All right. I have one more thing I wanted to discuss, and I thought it was kind of funny, and I'm really interested to see how the fans feel about this, how the people in the live chat and people listening feel about this. And there was a thing posted on Twitter on Thursday from it was posted on the Steelers scoreboard at Heinz Field during a training camp session. And it was imploring fans who were live in attendance not to post videos that they took, not to post it on social media. And I kind of just thought that was funny. And I realize I think there's a rule for that. You're not allowed to do that. But come on, I realize, and it's probably coming from Mike Tomlin, because that's the most paranoid person on planet Earth, as far as I'm concerned, is an NFL head coach. I mean, you would hear stories like from years ago, like George Allen, the old Washington head coach, thinking that there was the blimp flying overhead while they were preparing for Super Bowl 7 against the Dolphins, that was a spy. So, I'm sure Tomlin was a driving force in asking them to put this message up on the scoreboard. But I just think it's silly, because really, how much can you glean from a one video taken from a fan's smartphone sitting in the stands at Heinz Field? Maybe it shows a particular formation and what they do on that one play, but there's a such thing as tendencies, right? When you're talking about what teams do in particular formations, they don't all do this. They don't do the same thing every single time. They're in a particular formation, whether it's whatever the eye, like various personnel groupings, like 12 personnel, 11 personnel. Teams don't do the same thing every single time. Sometimes they pass it a tight end. Sometimes they run. Sometimes they go deep. You just never know what you're going to do. So to try to think that anybody's going to see that video on social media and try to dissect it, some spy for another team, to me, it's kind of laughable. I mean, everything when it comes to being an NFL fan, as far as stuff that you want to consume, whether it's an actual game live, a TV package you have to buy to watch the game from somewhere else, like a different part of the country other than Pittsburgh, it's pretty darn expensive. Going to a game, obviously the ticket's like $100. Parking's just a joke as far as what they charge, and beer and food. I mean, that's just ridiculous. So come on, let the fans, share in the excitement of what they're experiencing live, and allow them to have a moment where they post stuff online, and other fans can and they can chime in, and they can enjoy it too, join in on the experience. Come on, like the NFL is so funny when it comes to stuff like that. I mean, there's all they think that, and this kind of feeds into other stuff like people worry about, like trash talking and bulletin board material and all this stuff. I mean, football is mainly about lining up across from the person you're facing. Did I say that right? And beating him physically. Really, that's what football is mainly all about. But yet, everybody's so paranoid about these intangible things affecting whether or not you win or lose a game. So that's all I want to say about that. Nothing earth-shattering. I just think it's silly. I just think, to me, I personally think it's a bad look because it just seems petty. And I'm not always critical, or often critical, of the Steelers, but I think stuff like that's kind of petty. That's just my personal opinion. So on that note, I will take some questions and comments to close out the show. Let's see what we have here in the live chat. Here's one from DJ2. Maybe they're just worried about Canada's offense being unique and new. Who knows? It's not like the entire offense isn't available to the NFL by week 3, but they may think it gives them help week 1. Thank you, DJ2, because I was going to include that, and I guess I forgot as I was rambling on. That's a good point, because after the first few weeks of a season, everything's out there anyway, right? Everything's out there. Well, I should hire you as my assistant, because I can finish off what I wanted to say. Everything's out there, right? The horse is out of the barn after the first few weeks. You're not going to hold back your really good plays till later on in the year when you really need them. No, you're gonna maybe you don't show everything right away, but you show pretty much most of your game plan over the first 2 or 3 games, depending on your opponent. You're not just going to leave stuff in the bag because you're afraid that if you do use it, then teams are going to know it and they're going to game plan against it. No, you're going to use whatever you can to win each and every week, starting in week 1. So, yeah. And even in the preseason, people always talk about vanilla this and vanilla that. You're still going to be working on some of the stuff that you're going to want to use during the regular season. You're not just going to leave it to chance and just work on it at training camp and then unveil it during the season. No, you're going to work on it at least a little bit during the preseason. So thank you, DJ2. You helped me refocus what I wanted to say. So I appreciate that. You get a gold star for what it's worth. And Steelers Pittsburgh says COVID protocols are getting to be a hotter topic, and they're going to remain that way all throughout the course of the year because you have the vaccine stuff, and then there's probably going to be a point somewhere during the year where some team has an outbreak, whether they're even leaving the vaccine out of it. There's going to be a point where some team has an outbreak, and they're probably going to have to postpone a game. And it's going to affect the bye. So, yeah, it's never going to stop being a hot topic until this pandemic is behind us entirely, which whenever that is, hopefully sooner rather than later. So, yeah, that's a good point. Oh, gosh, here's one DJ2 is asking that I might not be able to answer because I'm not much of an X's and O's personnel kind of guy, but we'll see. He says, happy to help, Tony. What's your prediction for week 1? Nickel DBs, right corner, left corner, slot. I think it's going to go down right now. As of right now, obviously Hayden's going to be one of your starting corners. I think they're going to start the year with Sutton on the outside, and then as far as like the slot, and dime and whatever nickel and everything. I don't know. I mean, I think as far as candidates. Who would fill the slot while Sutton's on the outside. Brooks is the candidate, but then there's like these undrafted free agents. Arthur Millette's, I guess, more of a veteran. He's another candidate to do that. But if they go to like different packages, and I guess if Pierre has a really good preseason, then he can obviously be one of your outside corners, and Sutton can slide into the slot. But yeah, somebody like Shannon or Jeffrey or KT Smith, they'd probably be better at answering that question. I'm not much of a expert in that. I'm just really intrigued by Brooks's potential if he's really can make that leap as a 6th round pick. I know a lot of people are questioning his speed. I think he runs a 4.6. I'm not sure what Mike Hilton's 40-yard time is, but yeah, I don't know. I think Sutton might start the year on the outside. That's just my hunch. And maybe as the year goes on, maybe Pierre, somebody like that, can seize that number 2 spot, and then Sutton can go to the inside and maybe where he's more of a natural fit. And Steeler Nation 412 says the hype train for Pierre is becoming real. Hopefully, that's a good way to tag it. Hopefully, indeed. And the DJ2 is a star tonight. He says, gotcha. I'm most worried about slot now that we lost Hilton and Nelson. Essentially went from Sutton as an elite backup slot to no slot at all. Yeah, well, that's the thing about Pierre. If he really shows out this summer, then if he wins that starting job on the outside, then slot can go to, or Sutton can go to the slot, and he's a somebody that they're really high on after a few years. He was a number 3 draft pick, or 3rd round pick in 2017, and I know they're really high on him. So yeah, we'll see. I'll have to see how that works. Jared Devil says, will veteran leadership experience beat out Kendrick Green for starting center spot? You know what? I don't think so. I think Kendrick Green's going to win that job. I mean, J.C. Hassenauer, he's not much of a veteran. I mean, last year was his first cup of tea in the NFL. B.J. Finney's been around the block, but I think he's I think he's a lot of people think he's better off as a guard. A lot of people think he's better off as a reserve, period. So I think Kendrick Green's gonna win that job. Lumbersack's joining us, and he says, glad I could catch a live one with Tony. Hard to catch the live ones for me. Well, judging by your picture, you're a father of a young baby, so it's hard to make time for anything, from what I understand. So, but I thank you for joining me tonight. What else we have here? Brian Brown asked, are a lot of good DBs stepping up for the Steelers? Do you think we lose any after final cuts? Of course, because I mean, you look at the numbers. I mean, you have obviously you have Hayden, Pierre, Lane, Brooks, the rookies, Lamont Wade. Is that one of the rookies? Yeah, or no, Mark Gilbert. I think Lamont Wade's the running the linebacker. I might have said that wrong earlier. Lamont Wade. And I'm sorry, Gilbert, and then Shakur Brown. So somebody's not going to make the final roster. So somebody's gonna either be on the practice squad or be somewhere else. So definitely. And Cree-X asked, do you think Pat Freiermuth will be the next Heath? I think he's going to surpass him as far as, maybe not as far as like being the all-time best tight end ever, but as far as being a weapon in the passing game, I think he's going to be, because I mean, tight ends have come a long way since Heath Miller was really in his prime, when you think about it, in terms of how they're utilized around the NFL. And he looks like a Travis Kelce, George Kittle type of tight end, that kind of somebody, Austin Hooper, somebody who can be a real matchup problem, while also, being able to block a little bit. So I think as far as being a weapon in the moment, I think he can surpass what Heath is able to do. Will he be an all-time great here? I don't know. But in the short term, I think he can be a really valuable weapon for them. Yeah, Lumbersack brings up a good point that I was shocked to see on Twitter on Friday from Jerry Dulac of the Post-Gazette. And it's about Zach Gentry, the fifth round pick from 2019, a tight end from Michigan. And he says, I've been hearing really good things about Gentry and improvements with blocking and catching. It might have taken a while, but that's another potential weapon. Yeah, that's somebody that's worth keeping an eye on, because people remember he was a converted quarterback out of in college. He converted from quarterback to tight end, I believe, in college. And that's not an easy thing to do. So yeah, he was kind of an afterthought after 2 years, but you never know. You just never know how things are going to work out, right? So they counted out James Harrison for many years, meaning the NFL counted out James Harrison, and he went on to become the greatest sack artist in Steelers history. So as far as stats, anyway. So you just never know. And on that note, I got a third. I forgot about this. I saw it late, and I was going to comment on it. And this is from Jared Devil, and he says, man, I hope Troy makes it. And that means to the Pro Football Hall of Fame next weekend. He reported on Friday that he contracted the COVID virus. So, it's unfortunate if he can't make it for his induction, but he's going to do everything he can to get healthy and be as safe for himself and his people around him as he can, I guess. But fortunately, he still has about a week or so to go. So I just hope he can make it, and obviously I hope he's healthy and symptom free and totally free of the virus, and he can enjoy the weekend with everybody else, because it's a once in a lifetime thing, and to have it sort of tainted by this would be a shame. So best of luck and get healthy to Troy Polamalu. And I'm going to, on that note, say goodnight. And it was a fun show. I had a really good time, and you guys were great to interact with as always. Please check out Behind the Store Curtain, the website. Check out our podcasting platform. Stay tuned next week. stay tuned tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday, but all throughout next week as we get you ready, both on the editorial side, on Behind the Steel Curtain, the website, but also on with our plethora of podcasts as we get you ready for the Hall of Fame game against the Cowboys next Thursday. You're really going to love what we have in store for you. So on that note, I will bid you adieu and wish you a happy weekend. And as always, go Steelers.